with Platypus Brewing, and excited to bring you a series of interviews with some international rugby personalities as part of the World Cup. To my left is a good friend of mine, Andy Hilditch.
Hey, Sean.
Andy, tell everyone about yourself.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm Andy Hilditch, originally from Belfast, but been in Houston for a number of years. Always been in rugby, as the viewers will find out. I've got a lot of rugby connections. But I met you through a club that we both joined. You still played a little bit. I am the coach, and you now help me in coaching. And yeah, excited to do something for the people of Houston because this is the biggest rugby pub here. So I'm really chuffed and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. The idea we came up with around the World Cup is to, and with our connections and some of your personal and family connections.
Yeah,
we've got a great lineup, and really looking forward to getting into that and talking about some of the interviews we've already done, and some that will come through as well. Yeah. And yes.
Yeah, I mean it was. Luckily, we're both rugby people, and rugby is that community even across the world, and we were able to get some of the interviews have been fantastic so far, and some really different viewpoints. I think the key thing is here we're not just going players. We've got a referee, we've got ex-players. We're looking for we're going to be touching base with people who just all facets of the game, and that's really good. And some certainly very recently one of the legends of the game, which I'm really excited because I was a little bit of a fanboy on that one. So it was really, really good. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's some interesting anecdotes there you're just not going to see in mainstream media. So it was wonderful to have the individuals sort of open up about their experiences that go all the way back to the first World Cup in 1987. Right through to the most recent.
Yeah, that's a good stories on the 87 World Cup. Yeah, everybody thinks now rugby being super professional and the Rugby World Cup is of such a, it's been going for so long, and it's now I think the fourth largest sporting event in the world, but in 87, as we'll find out, it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't quite the same, but a lot of fun, and lots of things for people to be interested in right across all facets of the game.
Yeah, good, and it's exciting to be part of it within the context of US rugby, where we're trying to lift the profile at any stage. They're certainly there in the sevens. There's a little bit of work to do on the 15s to be competitive on the world stage. We certainly would love to be part of that and be able to promote that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Houston is it's the fourth largest city here, and there's a lot of expats, as they call them, who are here, but there's a real growing American community of guys who played college football, who played other sports in college and come out, and really there isn't much of a community type sport, and that's what we've got with the Arrows, which is the rugby club that we have here, and it's built really with guys who never even played the sport. So these types of things give them a real sense of the history, the community on a wider global sense, and I think that comes out really well, actually.
Yeah, good. Look, I look forward to it. We'll be presenting a lot of these through YouTube and our social media. We look forward to your comments and engagement on this as we go through the process. And please be forward with your comments, and we look forward to engaging with you further.
Easy. Constructive criticism, I think that's the key phrase we want to use here. We've got to remember this is two guys who did decide to do this over quite a few of your beers while watching a rugby match, and we've done some videos, and this is not high-end Hollywood production, but what we're really bringing is the content, and that's the key thing. I mean, the content is key here. As I'm a marketing guy, so I use that phrase all the time. But that it is really good. So yeah, comments would be great, and who knows where it goes. And the release, what do you think on the release all the way through? The competition's really long this year, big gaps between games. So I think it's pretty much up in the air, but just to keep everybody really enthused about getting logged in, getting subscribed to the channel, and then being told maybe of updates.
Yeah, very much so. So we'll throughout the course of the Rugby World Cup, absolutely.
Great.
I want to take an opportunity actually to introduce you, Andy, and your rugby background to our viewers. An Ulsterman, Belfast boy. Maybe give the viewers a bit of an idea, an inkling as to your rugby history background.
Yeah, well, it all started with my father. Actually, my dad played, and actually had to stop playing quite early and became a referee. And in 1984 was his first international. And I think just that plus the schools I went to were big rugby schools. And it was just an ever-present part of my life. It was actually the first job I got after university, was with the Scottish Rugby Union. Then I worked for an agency and we promoted rugby in Scotland. So it's always been ever-present, and as an Ulsterman, I mean, as a kid growing up, playing for Ulster was actually the driver. You know, then it was play for Ireland, then the British and Irish Lions, but always Ulster first. And it's you know, a lot of people will be thinking, oh no, Northern Ireland, Ulster. Rugby's always been an island sport. It's a bit like golf. You know, the organisation of rugby in Ireland is based on the 4 provinces. It's not based on any splits that happened in the early 1900s. So what you have then is a maintaining of a very, very traditional sport. However, it does create quite a lot of confusion. I'm a Northern Ireland, I'm an Ulsterman, I'm an Irish supporter, but you know what, that's the best thing about rugby. You know, and it is, as Rory McIlroy, who's from only 2 miles down the road from my parents' house, he plays golf for Ireland, but is a Northern Irishman. So we all have this oddity, but the World Cup's great because the World Cup is, you know, like the Six Nations, as Ireland becomes just simply one entity that everybody in the island supports. So yeah, it's a bit confusing when the accent comes out and people hear and think themselves, well, how does that work out? But rugby, no, always been one team, and that's how we are.
Wonderful, and that was a big aha for me through this process actually, is that you're a good Irish supporter, which was probably my number 2 team, obviously behind the wonderful Wallabies, and we wish them all the very best.
Yeah.
Question for you, talk to me a little bit more about your US rugby background.
Yeah, well, actually for a long time I didn't really do anything. Actually, you spent a lot of my time going back and supporting, whether it was Ireland in the World Cup, last trip being Japan, or was it with, I went and watched the tour with the Lions, and it was actually just a mutual friend. It's a good story. The US has got really terrifically enthusiastic rugby people, and the guy who founded our club, the Arrows, I was talking to a friend of his who happened to be my neighbour, and this neighbour started using all these rugby phrases, which Blake was like, how do you know that word? And he then confessed that he had been bored by me in the pub many times when we were talking about rugby. So he was then asked, I want to speak to him. So I really was asked to come in. I'd done a little bit of coaching here and there, from women's rugby to some other rugby with a great friend of mine who people may well find out during the series. And I was just over the moon to take on a role bringing some organisation, really. And so that's been my involvement, and then from then it's kind of snowballed, and talking to the greater rugby community about some of the experiences that I've had. But I mean, it's not as much as you. You mean you played here for how many years?
Oh, very amateur, back in the early 2000s, yeah.
Right,
I played
right.
in the 7th Circuit in
Right.
about 15s before I went back to Australia, actually,
Yeah.
but, and continued there. But age got the better of me, of course.
Does,
The mind
so
is
far.
well active and willing. The body is not quite there
Yeah.
and not ready anymore to face it with the young kids. But absolutely happy to be immersed myself and be around it.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, I love the enthusiasm of the US rugby fraternity, and it is a large sport internationally. It'd be great to see more profile here, and there's some steps that we think that the establishment needs to do to get competitive at the 15s level.
Yeah,
and we look forward to that journey.
Well, actually, there's a couple of, even right now, I mean, with the 3 interviews we've done, there is a question we asked, which one of the things that we want to find out what these big stars think of the great behemoth that is the US talent pool, and really trying to understand why hasn't it happened. I think one of our interviewees mentioned something about that when they saw the sevens, was that the springboard? It hasn't really happened. So, we're a little cog, my friend, in this, but we're trying, and I think, testament to you and the real focus you've given on rugby watching here, and we're getting, there's great people coming to the bar, and there's much more engagement, there's much more following, and friends, making friends. We've got a really nice group of guys in our club and some other clubs, and obviously many of the guys we played with earlier, but I think it's just people coming down and interested in this sport and the World Cup, man. If the games are in to go by and the warm-ups so far,
Pretty exciting.
Oh.
It's open.
Oh,
It's open.
And we're in the horror draw, so anyway. But we can get into that, and we can maybe introduce some of the things, some of the interviews with what's going on. But man, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. So there you go. You've got a great insight for Andy and myself, and again brought to you by Platypus Brewing. We look forward to bring you some of the interviews.
Great stuff. Talk to you soon.